Joining us now here in studio is Eric Windeler, and he's here to talk to us about the Jack Project. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Great to be here, Steve.
Tell us the story behind the Jack Project.
Well, it's a bit of a sad story. Last March, I received a phone call. So this was March 2010, and it was from a police officer. And he said he had to come to the house. And Sandra and I and Ben and Julia, our other children, were there, but we knew something was wrong immediately. The police officer came within 3 minutes, and within 30 seconds had the tough job to tell us that our eldest son, Jack, had died and been found in his residence room at Queen's. He had died of suicide. So that started a long story, and you tell me how you'd like to learn about it.
I presume the next thing that, beyond the immediate shock, you started asking questions of the police officer, what he knew, could he provide details?
He unfortunately is got one of the toughest jobs. He happens to be the duty officer in a patrol vehicle who got the call from Kingston Police and had to deliver this news. So he didn't know much. We were, of course, overcome, and you know, you literally go into a period of days of shock, and being with your family, your closest friends, the support came, doing the things, sort of the tough things you have to do, getting through a situation like that.
Well, let's fill in some of the blanks here. Jack grew up where?
Jack was born here in Toronto, grew up not far from here in North Toronto, and other than the fact between 2003 and 2006, we have lived in Toronto. We moved away to Chicago for a brief period of time. So we came back, and he finished high school, did very well in high school, and then went off and was in first year in arts and sciences at Queen's.
See a picture of him there rowing.
Yeah.
So he's a good athlete.
Well, he was I would say not an active athlete. His passion more led towards reading and maths and sciences and so on. But water skiing. But he was an active athlete, and he rowed very passionately, first in Chicago and then for 3 years at Ridley College, where he was in high school.
So here the picture is emerging of a normal kid who lives in a nice normal family, who's got a undramatic upbringing, decides to go to a very good university, and suddenly this happens.
Right.
Do you see any signs of anything?
No, and this is what's, now that I've learned so much in my 14 months of mental health education, this is really what people need to understand, is that 1 in 4 youth going through this period of time from age 15 to 20, transitioning from high school into post-secondary, college, university, and independent living and work. But 1 in 4 of those youth will suffer some form of diagnosable mental health challenge during that period of time. What that means is that although many go undiagnosed, the vast bulk go undiagnosed, youth like Jack, 1 in 4 of them will have some form of disorder that could be diagnosed if they only asked for help.
Anxiety, depression, something like that.
Eating disorders.
Eating disorder.
Yeah, ADHD, on and on. And Jack was one of the actually in the majority of people who don't ask for help, which makes the story that much more tragic. And boys are a little worse than girls at sharing their feelings and so on. And tragically, when he came home, he was Jack. You know, we went on the ski trip at Christmas. He came home at Reading Week. But after we got through the incredible 2 or 3 or 4 week period of shock where you're kind of overcome, I started sort of delving into this and visited schools and talked to mental health people and started doing my investigation of just how this can happen.
What'd you find out?
Well, I found out so much. First of all, I found out that we have an incredible group across the country of dedicated mental health professionals. But unfortunately, Canada is like most other countries where it is quite fragmented, and a lot of things are happening in a less than coordinated fashion. And so that's one of the sort of underlying tenets that we've worked on, is to really have a national approach, partnering with national organizations to make sure that we're not reinventing any programs, but we're finding the best programs, and we're creating somewhat of a movement to get youth age 15 to 20 understanding their own mental health, understanding the mental health of their peers so they can help their peers, And also we are reaching out to the faculty around them and their parents, of course, who care so much about the mental health of their kids.
So that is, in essence, the nature of the Jack Project, which obviously you've named after your son. You're bringing together what?
Well, the Jack Project, first of all, it's important that you understand we have partnered, and the Jack Project is formally an initiative of an organization you've heard well of because I know they come in here often, and that's Kids Help Phone. We're making a technology investment with Kids Help Phone. So we're providing the funds for them to pilot live chat and mobile applications as an additional way that young people can reach out to their professional counselors. We know kids today talk like this and they talk like this, and especially boys have trouble picking up the phone. So that's number one, a technology investment for Kids Help Phone. The number one thing that's been asked for, by the way, by youth. Number two is we're doing an outreach program to high schools, colleges, and universities. So we've signed up for our pilot program, which starts in September, 11 terrific colleges and universities, starting with Queen's and U of T and many others, and also 22 high schools, including the TDSB, Hamilton Wentworth, and a number of other school boards. So we have 33 schools that will be engaged in an outreach program to broaden awareness about mental health, workshops, and we're measuring what we're doing along the way so that we can find the best practices, put them in a toolbox for all schools to have access to.
Did any of the friends that you talked to indicate that they saw signs, but?
Sadly, there were many signs and symptoms, and we've actually produced a video with many of those students actually volunteered to participate in that video. And people like his residence, Don, people on his floor, his TA, who was one of the lab assistants in one of his courses. These people noticed signs, but they, in fairness, they had no idea that these were actually signs of mental health distress.
So what did they see?
Well, they saw him disengaging from class is one of the biggest signs. So somebody who's going in with a very high average and sort of eminently qualified to participate in first-year classes initially got off to a great start. But the best I can tell, by about November, he had already started to primarily withdraw from attending classes.
Do you know why?
We believe, and it's hard for us to tell because he was undiagnosed, but we believe it was very, very severe depression.
So something changed in his brain that made him, in essence, a different person.
Well, in essence, and depression in its most severe case can lead to thoughts of suicide. In fact, 1 in 10 youth of this age will contemplate at some point suicide will run through their brain. So we need to understand how serious it is. But it's very common. People think of that biochemical change, you know, if you have some coffee or some alcohol. Mental health disorders actually create a biochemical change in your brain, and it's just like a physical illness. In some cases, you can't get out of bed. You can't you can't snap out of it. You can't do the things you wanted to do. So in Jack's case, what we believe happened is he withdrew socially. So there's another sign on a residence floor. His door was closed more often. He wasn't going out to the sort of Saturday night events that they have at, at universities. So just that gradual withdrawal. And then he lost himself, we believe, in his books. He was a huge reader. And in online games, things that were a distraction and allowed him to I guess, be happy and be engaged, because he wasn't able to engage in the things that ideally he wanted to be engaged in and should have been engaged in.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you're at university, and you know what that university life is like, right? I mean, it's crazy at some level. And everybody does their own thing, and you know, was he in residence?
Yes.
Okay, so it's, you know, it's occasionally, you know, mayhem and all sorts of, you know what it's like. Anyway. People might have seen all of these signals and still not intervened for a bunch of reasons. They might not have thought it was all that odd. They might have simply thought, well, Jack wants to be on his own tonight in his room. That's fine. Right. So even if people were sort of more attuned to what you're supposed to be attuned to in this situation, might not have done any good anyway. Is that fair to say?
With the correct training and awareness and understanding that these signs and symptoms actually can be symptomatic of something more serious, you're absolutely right. These students, those signs could be interpreted as many things.
Right.
Problems with a girlfriend, or something is going on at home and you just want some quiet time.
Or you flunked a paper or something.
Or you flunked
Who
a
knows?
paper,
Yeah.
exactly. But one thing this mental health awareness will do, and mental health first aid will do, is it'll help people who are working with young adults identify and have the confidence to intervene. And it's clearly better to intervene and do a check-in and find out there's absolutely nothing going on than it is to just hope something's
That also takes a lot of guts, though, don't you think, Eric?
does.
I mean,
It does.
for one student to go up to another student who, if it's first year, you may not even know them all that well, and say, I'm concerned you're suffering from some mental health issues right now?
You'd be surprised. Some students and some faculty and staff and residence dons and so on very naturally have that sort of empathy and compassion built in. We're trying to broaden that awareness so more people at least can identify those signs and symptoms. Okay, and if you're not confident yourself to go up, then you can reach out to someone who might be. And there are natural help givers in every community, people who are the go-to people, and it might be a residence don, it might be a certain teacher at a high school or a guidance counselor or a social worker, and say, I'm just a little bit uncomfortable about what I'm seeing with my friend or my sister or brother, because I'm noticing a distinct change in their pattern.
I'm not saying this isn't a constructive thing to do, don't get me wrong, but if your son was able to mask his symptoms in front of you, the people he knew and loved the best, presumably it wouldn't have been too tough to fool other people who wouldn't have known him as well as you. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of the tragedies of people who aren't able to reach out because of the stigma within themselves. Jack admitted that he couldn't reach for help in the note that he left us. So, so that's a little bit of background on Jack's situation.
There's a very beautiful picture of you and him, and I presume that's your wife with?
That's my wife, Sandra Hannington, yes.
This is a very tough question to ask, Eric, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I've had people in that chair who've suffered the same thing you have. Jack's been gone, what, 15, 16 months now?
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a single happy day since then?
I think there is a lot of hope, actually, and every day the way I kind of describe it, he's right here. He's just off your forehead a little bit, if you know. It's always in your conscious thought. And now, because I'm doing this full time, probably even more so in my conscious thoughts. But many of those thoughts are happy thoughts and happy memories. And we've chosen, with Ben and Julia and Sandra, we've chosen to try as much as possible to have Jack in our daily discussions and have those happy thoughts. Everybody, even within our family, though, and our extended family, grieves differently. And in a sense, to say, do we have happy days? They're not happy the way other days were, that were sort of carefree, happy in a certain way. We miss him a lot.
Well, you've suffered the worst nightmare any parent can suffer. But do I assume correctly that the Jack Project, if not gives meaning to your son's death, potentially spares some other family from suffering this crisis?
Well, the fact of the matter is I already know it has. I've heard from parents, I've heard from students directly where it has had a direct impact on them. That's one thing that's so amazing about the world we're in today, and the way that you can communicate electronically with large number of people through Facebook groups and through our website, and with the power of the video we've created, and our work with these great organizations like Kids Help Phone and the Commission.
It's called the Jack Project.
Yes.
And Eric, we wish you a lot of luck with it.
Thank you very much.
Lots of luck, and thanks for coming in at TVO tonight to share your thoughts about your son, Jack.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it.